Right, so moving on, we're now going to take an isolated shot of a wine glass. Quite an elaborate shot this, and it's quite hard to get right because there's certain factors that we're going to throw into the mix to try and make it a bit more difficult. And one of those is a high-speed sync flash. We're going to use a high shutter speed for the shot. Now, what I've got here, we've got both studio lights that are set on the actual glass here. We're going to use a wine glass, and then we're going to pour some red wine into it and kind of freeze the action as it pours into the glass for a stock shot with a white isolated background. Now what I've got here is basically just the glass on a paint tin, but I've focused on halfway up the stem to the top of the glass with just the white background, and I've pre-focused right on the centre of the glass at the stem, and then I've set the lens to manual focus, so I've now locked that in so it won't be hunting at all when I go to take the shot. I've set the shutter speed to 800ths of a second, and I've set the aperture to f8 to get good depth of field. So we've got a fast shutter speed to freeze the wine, and we've got a good aperture for good depth of field to capture the depth of the glass. Now I'm also set to about 125 ISO just to make sure I've got enough light coming in. Now at the moment I've got both lights, and they're 500 watt lights firing onto the glass with nothing on the background. So let's take a shot and see what happens there. Oh, by the way, one more thing, this is a problem you could come across. I'm actually using the PC sync cable from one of the lights into the camera, which will then fire off the slave unit on the second flashlight. So when that fires, both will go off in sync and we should get a shot. But because we've got a high speed shutter, we'll take a shot and see what happens. Now you can see there, we've lost half of the picture. Half of it is exposed okay, the other half is dark. And what's happened there is, because we're not on a high speed sync with the camera and these lights, the shutter has been caught halfway across and become part of the actual image, so it's been exposed badly. Now there is a way around this. Obviously you can't use the synced up with these lights. We can't use the PC sync, so I'm going to unplug that, and I'm actually going to use just the speed light, and I've set it. It's a Canon 580 EX2. I know it does this with the 580 EX1. It's working with a Canon camera, so if you've got camera and flash that are compatible and work together, you're going to do a lot better with this kind of shot. So I'm going to turn the flash on, and I've set it to manual on full power, so it's enough power to fire the light here, and I've also got it on high speed sync. So now let's take the same shot. We've got the same focus, same setup, all the same settings, 800th f8 on ISO 125. We're not connected to the lights via the PC sync. We are just going to set the lights off using the speed light. Let's take a shot now. Okay, and you can see the glass is very well lit from either side. We've got nice illumination, and there's no shutter coming across to ruin the shot. But it's very much underexposed on the background. It's not white at all, it's grey. You can see all of the bits and pieces, you can see all of the creases in the shadows and all the details there. So we're not getting that quite right. So what we need to do in this situation is turn both lights to the backdrop to illuminate that as much as we can. And normally you would use a flash meter. So you would set both of these two lights onto the backdrop, take a reading at f8, and then you would have to come forward, or in fact I would set that at about f11 or f16 for the back, so it's very, very bright. And then I would have two more lights, or at least one light lighting the subject 2 stops brighter, 2 stops smaller, or wider, sorry. So it would be around f8 or f5.6 on the glass, so that when we expose it correctly for the glass, this will be completely blown out on the background. So the background must be exposed 2 stops brighter than the foreground. That way you will kill all of the shadows and everything on the background, have a well illuminated glass, and then it would work. But in this situation, my third studio light is actually broken, so I can't do that. But what you can do is use a flashlight to illuminate this properly, and then you'd have the background completely white, and then we take the shot and hopefully the background will be bright. Now, because I haven't got a light, a third studio light or a fourth studio light to brighten the subject here, I have tried using the continuous lights, but they're not bright enough to actually illuminate this to the amount of power I want, and the white balance is slightly out. So another workaround you can actually do here is to set it up slightly differently. Now I'm not doing anything with the wine while I'm doing these test shots, because I want to make sure I get it right before I start wasting red wine just for the sake of a few shots. So we're going to set this up now slightly differently, and then we'll show you exactly how you can get the same shot on a minimum budget. Okay, so now what we've done is, and this is for people on a budget or if you've only got minimal space, that kind of thing, but still want to do this kind of shot with the wine glass and the pouring of the wine into the glass. We're going to completely forget the backdrop. We're not going to use that anymore. So all we're going to use is a great big softbox here as our backdrop. So that's going to be completely white, as you'll see in a minute. And we're going to use a big umbrella in front of to light the subject here. Don't worry too much about the camera because it will illuminate all the way around and still light the subject. But I'm not obviously going to stand in the way, which is why I'm using a cable release. So all I've done here is the same again, focused on the glass, on the center of the glass, switched it to manual. The camera's still on 800th of a second at f8. Both lights are still on full power. I haven't done anything else, no changes to what we just did. Now I'm going to take a shot again and you'll see the difference. So let's just take a shot. And you can see there that now we have a complete pure white background and the glass is well illuminated, and we're shooting raw so we can make any fine adjustments later on. But ultimately, we've now got a great shot with the white background and the glass well exposed. Now obviously with the 5D Mark II, I've got a lot of megapixels, 21 megapixels, so I can afford to crop in. I can't get any closer with the 50mm lens. If I wanted to get closer and zoom into the glass to save having to crop it later on, I would use maybe a 100mm macro lens or a slight telephoto and then move back. But again, we're on a mild budget here, and we're going to just use the 50mm lens. You don't really want to use a wide angle lens because you'll get distortions in the glass, that kind of thing. So now what we're going to do is just take the shot and we're going to pour some wine into it now and see if we can freeze that action and get a really good looking shot of the wine as it pours through the glass. Now here we go. We've got an old bottle of red that I opened earlier. So let's just get this all ready. So we know it's all set up and ready to go. You can do this with an assistant, but you can still do it by yourself as well. So we've got it all set up. What I'm going to do now is pour the wine, and as it comes out and through to the glass, I'm going to take a shot. And I've got a second glass. We're going to do another shot afterwards. So here we go. I'm going to count to 3 and then pour the wine and take the photo. So it's 1, 2, 3. So let's have a look at that one. I hopefully have caught that well. Let's have a look. Yep, that is absolutely brilliant. We've got really good capture there. The lighting is good. I'm hoping it's in focus. It could be slightly off focus. So this time I'm going to actually, it's still a good shot. You can see we've captured the wine perfectly and the background is pure white. So we know we've got that aspect right. What I'm going to do now is just focus ever so slightly more towards the center, if I can, of the glass. So let's try and get just a bit more, sorry, to the front edge of the glass. So if I get to about there, using the reflections on the glass as my focus point to about there, that's it, and lock that in. Actually, we're going to change glasses, aren't we? So let's move that glass out of the way, put this one on top, and now I'm going to put the cork in the middle of the glass and focus on that. So that's focused perfectly in the center there now. So we're on manual. Let's take the cork out and take another shot. What a waste of good wine, but it's all for the cause of stock photography. So once again, we're going to count to 3 and then pour the wine and take the shot. So 1, 2, 3. So what we'll do now is have a look on the computer and I'll just run through again how to do that kind of shot and where we've gone right and where we've gone wrong. So here we are in Lightroom, and this is the second photo that we just took, and you can see once again we've captured the wine beautifully as it comes out and we have a perfectly white background. We've maybe lost a touch of the edge of the glass here, so we may need to turn down the aperture a little bit, maybe stop it down one more stop. That will also help with the depth of field as well. But if we look at the stem of the glass, absolutely pin sharp, not a problem there. All of this is really well captured. Go up the side of the glass, all still sharp. We've got some beautiful capture of the wine going up the side there. It's sharp up to the top there, and then again look at that bottle, it's absolutely pin sharp with the wine coming out, and it's been frozen pretty well. Again, we're at 800th of a second. You can see here 800th of a second, f8, 50mm, ISO 125. So we've captured that pretty well. We got all the elements just about right. We probably could do with going up an extra shutter speed, maybe to 1,000th or even faster. So once you've got to this stage, it's worth playing about with the settings. You know you've got the background right, you know you've got the setup right, then it's just a case of fine tweaking and taking loads and loads of shots until you get one where it's absolutely perfect, and you get obviously radically different shapes every time you pour the wine. And just a quick note, the wine glass, sorry, the bottle was actually fairly empty, so it flowed out a lot faster. If you've got a full wine bottle, it kind of glugs as it comes out and you won't get that full flowing effect. So when you do this, make sure that there is maybe a quarter of the bottle left, so that as it pours it comes straight out of the neck and straight into the glass. But let's just recap on everything there. If we aren't using a sync speed, a proper sync speed where the flash are synced with the camera at high speed, you're going to get the shutter plane coming across, and that happened when we used the PC connector with the lights fixed to the camera. So it hasn't got a high-speed connection, so that didn't work. So then we used the speed light attached to the camera, which is fully compatible, and then we put it on high-speed sync, which then captured the wine glass perfectly. There was no shutter coming across, but we've got nothing lighting the background. That's where we need 2 extra studio lights to do the background at 2 stops above the foreground, because the foreground's fine. So there we haven't got enough lighting. So we then switched with the background as the backdrop, if you like, with the softbox as the backdrop, and that did the job perfectly. You can see in this one that we've got the stem. When it's rendered the large preview, you can see that the stem is perfect. It's just waiting for that to render. You can see there, beautifully sharp, really crystal clear, and we've got good lighting from the background and everything. So you know, we know it worked at that point, and then obviously we just added the wine glass and we took 2 shots. And the first one, I actually said it was a little bit blurred, but I think it was actually spot on. If we wait for this to render again, you can see there, pin sharp, but we just maybe didn't have enough depth of field. But we focused on the stem there, which meant that when the wine came up the glass, it wasn't as sharp as it could be. It's still pretty good, so I'm still pleased with that, and it probably still would work as a stock shot. And again, the glass, the bottle is pin sharp. So just a few more of those and get some radically different ideas, and we've got a good stock shot. I've got some more ideas myself to take with those, but I hope that helps, and I hope that kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with your own setup. And it's a case of just setting up the lights, having a practice, trying a few of those techniques, and just working on it and changing your apertures and shutter speeds and power output until you get all the elements correct. You need a fast shutter speed to freeze the wine, and you need a bright background to give yourself a perfectly isolated image.